everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
Tohsaka Rin will become a magic god in Type Moon. Chapter 57 to 70. Chapter 57, Journey to the Clock Tower. 1456 words. You have arrived, descendant of Tohsaka Nagato. Originally, according to Waver's plan, he was going to arrange a meeting between Zelrich and Rin after confirming she had finished the imitation of the jewel sword. However, news of Rin's arrival in London spread throughout the clock tower overnight. It just so happened that Zelrich had finished his journey through parallel worlds and appeared at the clock tower during this time. Filled with interest in Rin, Zelrich came to the El Meloy faction's headquarters early in the morning, specifically asking to see this descendant of his student. Zelrich looked at Rin, who was frozen in place, shook his head, stood up, walked to Rin's side, and examined her himself. You seem different from the Tohsaka Rin of other parallel worlds. Did you have some kind of special encounter? Rin, frozen in place, turned her head mechanically, looking at Zelrich with a grim expression. It's over. Is Zelrich going to see through me? How could I forget that Zelrich is a guy who wanders through parallel time and space? Damn it, I must find a way to mow my way through this. Zelrich shook his head, slapped his hand on top of Rin's head, and pressed down firmly. What are you nervous about? This old man doesn't eat people. Oh, I forgot I'm a dead apostle, so I suppose I really could eat people. Ha 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 ha. Rin stood frozen in place, feeling the powerful hand pressing on her head, and made an expression worse than crying while starting to laugh awkwardly with Zelrich. Ha 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 ha. Kenneth and Waver, who were on the side, looked at the suddenly laughing Zelrich and Rin, confused. Although they didn't understand the reason, after exchanging a glance, they also started laughing along. As Waver and Kenneth started laughing, Zelrich was stunned for a moment. Is this old man's joke that funny? Then, he stopped laughing, removed his hand from Rin's head, pinched her cheek, and said, Your laugh is too ugly. All right, you two, stop laughing too. Rin, whatever special encounters you've had have nothing to do with me. Don't be afraid. I came to see you today simply out of curiosity about the descendant of Nagato in this world. Hearing Zelrich say this, Rin let out a sigh of relief. It seems Zelrich can't tell I'm a transmigrator. Her courage grew, and she slapped away the hand Zelrich was using to pinch her cheek, put her hands on her hips, pointed at Zelrich, and asked. Hey, Kister Zelrich Schweinorg, is your agreement with my ancestor still valid? Zelrich stood there stunned, looking at Rin with confusion. Agreement? What agreement? The jewel sword, of course. Didn't you leave a blueprint for the jewel sword to my ancestor? Zelrich thought for a moment and finally remembered the matter. Tohsaka Nagato, a disciple he had casually guided a few times in the Far East back then. Because his personality was mediocre, cold-blooded, and somewhat manic-depressive, and he was obsessed with pursuing a benevolent future, to the point of planning to sacrifice himself, it had even bothered Zelrich at the time. So he had given the jewel sword blueprint to the uninspired Tohsaka Nagato as an assignment, hoping he would strive towards it as a goal. As for the so-called agreement, that was entirely a delusion of the Tohsaka family's descendants, it didn't exist at all. Zelrich looked at the expectant Rin and sighed, forget it, let's just pretend such an agreement exists. Yes, there is such an agreement. As long as you Tohsaka family descendants can reproduce the jewel sword, I will take that person as my disciple. In fact, Rin wasn't clear about this matter in her past life's memories either. The claim of an agreement had come from Tohsaka Tokiomi. Hearing the truth of the agreement now, she breathed a sigh of relief. Although she knew that most of Zelrich's disciples were, or would become, useless, Rin, who had the system as her trump card, was still a bit worried, but decided to cling to this thigh delivered to her doorstep first. With a flash of magical energy, the jewel sword previously bestowed by Zelrich and Rin's own replica appeared in her hands. Rin respectfully handed the jewel swords to Zelrich, and once he took them, she performed a disciple's salute and shouted. Master! Zelrich took the two jewel swords, took the one Rin had replicated, and casually slashed at the air. It was as if space had been sliced open, a cut appeared right there in the air. Then, seeing through Rin's thoughts, Zelrich spoke to her. Very well, Tohsaka Rin. I allow you to identify yourself as my disciple from now on. If you don't want to be broken, you had best not seek me out beyond today, and stay far away if you see me, understand? Rin nodded at Zelrich, thinking to herself, I don't want to become a useless person like most of your disciples either, so this is for the best. Anyway, I only wanted the status of being your disciple. Zelrich tossed the two jewel swords back to Rin, and looked out the window. While it is still early, I shall give you some pointers. Rin, if you have any questions, you may ask now, but remember my warning. Kenneth and Waver exchanged glances. Although Waver's plan had been ruined, it seemed they now had a better outcome. Watching Zelrich in the hall preparing to instruct Rin, the two greeted him, and then walked out of the room, remaining in the hallway to prevent anyone from disturbing Rin's opportunity. At the Clock Tower's Department of Magecraft Administration, Bartholomew Lorelei, accompanied by her guards, kicked open the door. Walking into the office of the Department of Magecraft Administration, Bartholomew Lorelei surveyed the room, looking at her uncle, Bartholomew Charles, who sat blankly in the main seat, and Ulysses, the head of the Solanu family, who was sitting beside her uncle. A disdainful smile curled the corner of her lips. Lorelei walked to the desk in front of Charles, slammed the writing crop in her hand onto the table, and asked the startled Charles. Where is the detention order for Tohsaka Rin? Bartholomew Charles came to his senses. Glancing at Ulysses, who was signaling him, he calmed down, slammed the table firmly, and shouted sternly. Bartholomew Lorelei. Do you have any respect for me as your uncle? Get out and knock on the door right now. Bartholomew Lorelei cast a contemptuous glance at her uncle, and then stared fixedly at Ulysses. I am here in my capacity as the assistant to the director of the clock tower, and the current sorcery marshal to collect the detention order for Tohsaka Rin. And Bartholomew Charles, don't forget, I am the head of the Bartholomew family now. Ulysses looked at his old friend, who was preparing to say something else, and shook his head at Charles. Charles, give it to her. Lorelei, although I don't know what promises those Democratic faction guys made to you, don't forget that you are also a Bartholomew, and also of the aristocratic faction. Lorelei glanced at Ulysses, picked up the document Charles produced, and left the Department of Magecraft Administration with her guards without looking back. What kind of promises could those Democratic faction guys make to that girl? Nothing more than dead apostles. A little girl who doesn't understand politics. I really don't know why my elder brother passed the family headship to her at a time like this. Hearing his old friend's complaint, Ulysses shook his head. His old friend seemed to have forgotten that they were magi, and that for magi, it was ultimately about power. At the Elmeloy faction headquarters, Kenneth, who was waiting outside the room of Rin and Zelrich, frowned as he watched a servant running over in a panic, and asked the servant with displeasure. What's the meaning of this panic? Lord head of the family, it's a disaster. The sorcery marshal is leading the choir clone unit, and intends to force her way into the estate. Bartholomew Lorelei. Have they produced a warrant? Lord head of the family, they have a detention order signed by the Department of Magecraft Administration. Kenneth turned his head to look at Waver, signaling him to wait here. Then, ignoring the servant, he walked out of the castle with furrowed brows. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks. Chapter 58, Trip to the Clock Tower. 1,396 words. In front of the Elmeloy faction estate. Rhaenys was leading a group of servants and mercury golems, tensely confronting the choir clone unit led by Bartholomew Lorelei. Head of Bartholomew, we at Elmeloy are entertaining an honored guest. Please return. I am determined to detain Tohsaka Rin today. Are you at Elmeloy truly going to oppose me for her sake? Facing the overbearing Bartholomew Lorelei, Rhaenys was not worried in the slightest, covering her mouth and chuckling. Sorcery Marshal Lorelei, I don't care about Tohsaka Rin or whoever. I only know that you absolutely cannot take away any guest from the Elmeloy household today. Bartholomew Lorelei's eyes flashed with anger upon hearing Rhaenys's words, and she beckoned to the choir behind her, commanding. Act. Anyone who blocks us is designated as an enemy. At this moment, Kenneth also arrived at the gate. Seeing the magical aura lighting up on both opposing sides, he waved his left hand, and several mercury golems transformed into a wall, separating the two sides. Stop. Seeing Kenneth arrive, Rhaenys signaled her subordinates to stop and came to stand behind Kenneth. The members of the choir still maintained their magical readiness, while watching Lorelei's back, waiting for her next command. Is Bartholomew intending to declare war on our Elmeloy faction? Bartholomew Lorelei glanced at Kenneth with disdain. Indeed, Bartholomew Lorelei possessed the capital for this. As the pinnacle of contemporary magi, Bartholomew Lorelei could, if she wished, single-handedly resolve the entire Elmeloy faction. Facing Lorelei's disdainful gaze, the proud Kenneth did not get angry, maintaining his aristocratic elegance as he questioned Lorelei. Do you really want the clock tower to fall into civil war? Facing Kenneth's repeated questioning, Lorelei could not help but hesitate. As a magus, Lorelei was undoubtedly at the pinnacle, but when it came to politics, at only 16 years old, how could she be a match for these old foxes? Completely ignorant of the infighting between the various factions in this incident, and having been hastily pushed out by Bartholomew in the first place, Lorelei spoke with conflict upon hearing Kenneth's mention of civil war. I have no intention of starting a civil war, but Kenneth, regardless, I must take Tohsaka Rin away today. At this moment, an aged voice interrupted the conversation between Kenneth and Lorelei. Oh? Must you take away this old man's disciple? Lorelei's pupils contracted as she looked toward the source of the voice. She saw a door appear out of thin air, and Zelrich was walking out of it with Tohsaka Rin. Sorcery Marshal. Just moments ago, after instructing Rin, Zelrich had taken out a grimoire under Rin's puzzled gaze. Then, under Zelrich's manipulation, the pages of the grimoire flipped continuously, and a door formed by magecraft emerged in the air. Rin, come with me. A little one is looking for you. The confused Rin watched Zelrich turn and walk into the door, and followed in a daze. Passing through the door summoned by Zelrich, Rin only felt a flash of light before her eyes. She then instinctively shielded her eyes from the sunlight, only to realize that she had followed Zelrich to the gate of the estate. Kenneth and Rhaenys came to Rin's side and nodded at her. Rest assured, Rin. With my brother and me here, we won't let anyone arrest you. Wait, Rhaenys, what is going on? I have no idea what the situation is right now. Lorelei also noticed the arrival of Tohsaka Rin, and waved her riding crop. Seize her. Little girl, are you certain you want to take away my disciple? Lorelei looked at Zelrich, who was blocking the way in front of Tohsaka Rin, knowing that she would not be able to take Tohsaka Rin away no matter what. She took a deep breath, produced a handkerchief, and threw it straight at Tohsaka Rin. In that case, Tohsaka Rin, I, head of Bartholomew, next director of the clock tower, and sorcery marshal, hereby challenge you to a duel. Rin looked at the people around her, whose expressions had turned grave after Lorelei issued the duel, and asked, not understanding. What's wrong? Why are you all suddenly so tense? Can't I just not duel her? Zelrich patted Rin on the shoulder and explained to her. You cannot refuse the duel invitation issued by that little girl Lorelei. If you refuse, it is equivalent to looking down on the Bartholomew family, and then you and Bartholomew will be mortal enemies. If they then take revenge on you, no one will be able to intervene. How can it be like that? Rin of course knew what kind of person the Lorelei before her, dressed in a white riding outfit with a ponytail, was. She was the pinnacle of modern magi, capable of fighting a dead apostle ancestor single-handedly. Kenneth shook his head, looking at Lorelei with some annoyance. He truly could not imagine what reason could have led Lorelei to challenge Tohsaka Rin to a duel. One had to know that Lorelei was one of the three great noble families. Regardless of victory or defeat today, the reputation of Bartholomew, one of the three great noble families, bullying a rural family would certainly be unavoidable. Kenneth, of course, could not have imagined that it was his sister's words, "You absolutely cannot take away any guest from the Elmeloy household today," that had stirred up Lorelei's young lady temper. "Rin, Lorelei is the same age as you, and you are now also Zelrich's disciple, so her invitation to duel you can be fairly established. Then I have no choice but to fight her." Lorelei looked at Rin, who had been chatting there, and shouted impatiently at her. "Are you finished chatting? Tohsaka Rin, do you accept my duel invitation?" Seeing that she could not avoid it, Rin walked forward a few steps, picked up the handkerchief on the ground, and waved it at Lorelei. "Come on." Seeing that things had developed to this point, the surrounding people could only pull back to create space for the two. Silence, yes, silence. While Rin was wary of Lorelei, Lorelei also did not take Tohsaka Rin, the genius rumored throughout the magical world, lightly. The two sides just stood there in silence, confronting each other. 1 minute, 10 minutes. Rin stared intently at the bead of sweat caused by the sun on Lorelei's face. The moment the sweat entered Lorelei's eye, Rin made her move. Spear of Venus. A jewel was tossed into the air by Rin, and then shattered. The light of Venus contained within it converged, transforming into a beam of light that shot toward Lorelei. Celestial magecraft. Humph. Lorelei raised the riding crop in her hand, and a wall of wind formed by a gust of wind blocked the spear of Venus. Rin, of course, did not expect the spear of Venus to have any effect on Lorelei. Knowing that the girl opposite her had magical abilities far superior to her own, Rin chose close-quarters combat, and the spear of Venus was merely a feint to get close to Lorelei. "Oh, you intend to engage me in close-quarters combat? Come on." Facing Rin, who had rushed to her front, Lorelei calmly activated reinforcement magic. She easily parried Rin's punch with the riding crop in her hand, and using butterfly footwork, began to trade blows with Rin's 8 extremities fist. As Rin and Lorelei became locked in close-quarters combat, the gate, the walls, and the ground were all smashed to pieces during their intense fight. At this time, the guests in the banquet hall also discovered the duel, and by unspoken agreement, rushed toward the estate gate. Fujino, pulling Sakura, looked with a grim expression at the two rapidly colliding dots in the distance, yet she recognized at a glance that the red figure was her master, Tohsaka Rin. Sakura activated reinforcement magic and ran rapidly toward the gate with Fujino, looking worriedly at the two sides battling in the distance. "Sister, you must not be hurt. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 59, Trip to the Clock Tower, Duel continued. 1,418 words. Ha! Rin landed an iron shoulder bash on Lorelei's chest, but it had no effect on Lorelei, who had activated defensive magecraft, only causing Lorelei to step back slightly. Rin panted heavily as she looked at Lorelei, who was still breathing steadily. Damn it, although this person isn't good at fighting, it's really too difficult to deal with her when combined with magecraft. She truly lives up to being the pinnacle of modern magi. I must change my strategy. Rin launched an attack on Lorelei again, while secretly throwing a ruby onto the ground. Lorelei looked at Rin, who was pressing her lips together and saying nothing. A mocking smile curled the corner of her lips, and while fighting, she calmly mocked Rin. Still not giving up. Is a female gorilla like you, who only knows how to use her fists, really a genius of magecraft? Ha! Female gorilla. You bastard, you're dead. Innocentious, kill her for me. Just during the fight, Rin had forced Lorelei to the vicinity of the jewel she had secretly thrown down earlier. Roar! A huge fire giant, at Rin's shout, appeared roaring behind Lorelei, raising a huge flaming cross and smashing it down toward Lorelei. Feeling the high temperature coming from behind, Lorelei turned around without hesitation and drew the riding crop stuck at her side waist. A huge gust of wind, following the swing of Lorelei's riding crop, converged into a wind bullet and collided with the Innocentius. Boom! Rin watched the explosion caused by the collision between the Innocentius and the wind bullets, not daring to be careless as she stood her ground, gathering starlight. The massive explosion caused the surrounding people to instinctively move further back, giving Rin and Lorelei even more space for their battle. Kenneth, who had been nervously watching the duel between the two, took this opportunity to ask Zelrich. "Lord Zelrich, what is your take on this? Rin is no match for that girl Lorelei. Once they enter a battle of magecraft, if Rin doesn't have a trump card, she will soon be defeated by her." Hearing Zelrich's answer, Kenneth turned his head unwillingly toward Tohsaka Rin, who was gathering starlight on the field. "Go for it. Rin, I believe that the little girl who played us all for fools back then won't lose like this." At this moment, affected by the daylight, Rin's starlight gathering was noticeably slower than usual. Finally, at the last moment as the dust settled, she entered starlight mode. Starlight mode, light wing deployment. Lorelei emerged from the dust. Seeing Rin floating in the air, she nimbly dodged the starlight, and with the help of wind magecraft, leapt up to the same height in the sky. Impressive magecraft but not enough, wail. A massive storm appeared, with wind power comparable to a Category 17 maritime typhoon, gushing out from the magic circle in front of Lorelei. It blew Rin away the instant it made contact. Fujino, still some distance from the battlefield, saw Rin being knocked away. A rainbow light flashed in her eyes as she activated her mystic eyes of distortion toward Lorelei. Lorelei, having dodged Fujino's attack, was furious. She never expected anyone would dare to interfere with this duel, and let out an angry roar. "Crush them, wailing wind!" The gale changed direction and swept toward Sakura and Fujino in the distance. Rin, blown away by the gale, casually tossed aside the gem dust that had shattered while blocking Lorelei's attack. She anxiously flew toward Sakura and Fujino. Detecting the reaction of distorted air just now, Rin easily recognized that the strike was the mystic eyes of distortion. While Sakura and Fujino were struggling to resist Lorelei's attack, Rin finally arrived. Realizing she was in the wrong, Rin charged straight into the range of Lorelei's magecraft to tank the attack. Enduring the intense pain, she made a gesture toward Lorelei. Lorelei stopped her magecraft and approached Tohsaka Rin. Looking at Rin, who was kneeling on the ground clutching her stomach and chest while coughing up blood, she asked with a frown of confusion. "Why? Cough, these are my sister and disciple. Please forgive their unintentional actions." Lorelei turned her head away in a tsundere manner. "Boring emotions. Now that you've taken the wailing wind head-on, you've lost the ability to resist. I'll allow you to rest for a day before we fight again." Rin hadn't expected Lorelei's magecraft to bypass the body's surface and attack the internal organs directly. Feeling that her organs were in tatters and she was only hanging on by a thread through magical energy, Rin stubbornly shook her head. "No need. It was Fujino who interfered in the duel first, so it's only fair I took a hit from you. I can still fight." Water of life. A massive amount of magical energy was converted from Rin's mage circuits. A glob of clear water appeared above Rin's head and drenched her. Lorelei nodded as she watched Rin recover and stand up again, feeling a sense of recognition for her. However, she was somewhat puzzled by the cost of this magecraft. However, if Lorelei knew the price of Rin's magecraft, it probably wouldn't be recognition, but a full-effort attempt to kill her. The water of life was the technique of Vasilisa, the leader of the Annihilatus in the A certain magical index world. While it was just a mysterious and powerful magic in that world, in the Type Moon world, due to the distortion of the magecraft base and Rin's modifications, it had not only become a one-time magecraft requiring immense magical energy but also carried a price. With each use, the person drenched in the water of life would gradually become a dead apostle, and their heart would be twisted into that of a murderous fiend. Rin suppressed the bloodlust rising in her heart. Feeling the emptiness in her mage circuits, she spoke to the anxious Sakura and Fujino nearby. You two, no matter what happens to me, you are not allowed to interfere again. Do you understand? Sakura and Fujino, who had just exhausted themselves to resist Lorelai's magecraft for a brief moment, supported each other as they stood up. Regretting their weakness, they glared at Lorelai, only nodding unwillingly when they sensed the impatience in Rin's eyes. All right, let's settle this in one strike. Humph, Tohsaka Rin, regardless of the outcome, I, Bartholomew Lorelai, acknowledge you. Rin and Lorelai rose into the sky again, facing off once more. At this moment, Rin used the command spells on her hand to establish a mental link with Da Vinci back in Japan. Da Vinci, I need to use the inherent reality. Can I use it now? Whoa. Rin, what kind of enemy did you run into that you need to use that? Stop rambling, Da Vinci. Just tell me if I can use it. The Zenju residence in the suburbs of Fuyuki City, now called the Tohsaka Annex, had been bought from the Zenjo family by Tohsaka Tokiomi after the Fourth Holy Grail War. Rin, Tuko, and Da Vinci had converted it into a magecraft workshop over the past few years. Receiving Rin's communication, Da Vinci looked at the massive apparatus beside her, hesitated for a moment, and then replied via the contract. Perhaps, should, possibly, no problem. Rin looked at the increasingly impatient Lorelai across from her and spoke irritably to Da Vinci through the contract. Da Vinci. I need a definite answer. Rin, it's not like you don't know. After this device was built, it's only been used once and only lasted for 3 minutes. I don't know either, but it should definitely be fine for a short time. Fine for a short time, then. Da Vinci, Link. Well, since you've decided, Rin, then of course. Okay. Da Vinci flipped the switch. Magical energy from the furnace instantly flooded the apparatus. Then, as the machine started up, Da Vinci stepped inside. The soul fragment of the Winter Saintess within the apparatus also emitted a brilliant light. Feeling the steady stream of magical energy coming through the contract, Rin smiled slightly. System, cooperate with me, let's begin. Infinite Phase, Demon God Sanctuary. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 60, The End of the Duel. 1,382 words. Lorelai looked curiously at the unfamiliar street. Under the bright starry sky, a row of massive windmills stood beside the empty modern street. Lorelai turned around to see Rin, who had suddenly appeared behind her. An inherent reality. Is this your trump card? I'm quite curious how you, a human, can use magecraft of this level. After saying that, Lorelai focused magical energy into her eyes and immediately saw through the mirage obscuring the command spells on Rin's left hand. Remote magical energy transmission. Is it a servant from the Holy Grail War? Then those on your hand must be command spells. Although I don't know how you did it, it's meaningless, wail. As expected, it's this move again. The violent storm reappeared, completely swallowing Rin. Lorelai watched Rin being swallowed by the storm, then stopped her magecraft in confusion. She looked around warily, muttering to herself. What exactly is the effect of Tohsaka Rin's inherent reality? The effect is, of course, divine punishment. A girl dressed strangely with a cross hanging from her tongue jumped down from a nearby building holding a massive hammer, landing in front of Lorelai. The newcomer was Tohsaka Rin, who had transformed into Vento of the Front with the help of the inherent reality. Through the new memory function opened by the system in recent years as a mental image, combined with the device Da Vinci researched that could activate the Winter Saintess's soul fragment, Da Vinci was able to feed back a large amount of magical energy to Rin via the contract after obtaining it. Thus, the inherent reality, infinite phase, demon god sanctuary, was manifested in this world for the first time. Ugh! Lorelei clutched her head in pain, kneeling on one knee as she stared intently at Vento of the front. Although her appearance had changed, Lorelei could still tell from the expression on Vento's face that this person was indeed Rin. Lorelei, admit defeat. Lorelei endured the intense headache and quickly thought of a strategy. What kind of technique is this? Is it the effect of this inherent reality? No, if that were the case, I should have been affected the moment I entered it. Wait. This technique only started working after Rin changed into her current form. Tohsaka Rin, transformed into Vento of the front, looked at the weakened Lorelei kneeling before her and raised her hammer, preparing to deliver the final blow. Just as the hammer was about to strike Lorelei's back, a gust of violent wind erupted from Lorelei, forcing Vento of the front back. I see. You deliberately took on this appearance in this transformation, didn't you? The goal was to make me feel hostility toward you. Rin looked at Lorelei and curled her lip. You think I wanted to look like this? This is just how Vento of the front dresses. I guess I am Vento of the front right now. While Rin was distracted, Lorelei took the opportunity to raise her hands, and a massive magic circle expanded with her at the center. Submit. Dozens of massive tornadoes, like docile giant pythons, coiled around Lorelei. Rin narrowed her eyes, staring at Lorelei floating in the air protected by dozens of tornadoes. She swung her hammer forcefully. With each swing, massive air masses, like blunt instruments, collided with Lorelei's tornadoes. As Rin attacked, the pythons came to life. Some began to roar and charge at Rin, while others showed their fury, picking up huge amounts of debris to form a wall protecting Lorelei. Vento of the front swung her hammer, sending out one blunt instrument after another to constantly knock away the tornadoes. Using the ruined buildings, she charged toward Lorelei in midair. I'm still too weak. If it were the original Vento of the front, she would have stripped Lorelei of her consciousness the moment she deployed the divine punishment technique. The system's so-called memory function was a feature that manifested battle scenes of magicians from a certain magical index world, allowing Rin to learn by watching these magicians fight. Because Rin had been busy traveling the world looking for catalysts and conducting new research, even though she could barely recreate Vento of the front with the system's help, she lacked a deep understanding of the techniques. Rin could only use these techniques mechanically. Combined with the limitations of her own strength, the Vento of the front she transformed into couldn't even exert half of her true combat power. Lorelei watched Vento of the front rapidly approaching her, and also had no way to respond. Although she possessed almost the strongest mage circuits among magi, after several consecutive large-scale spells, she was now struggling even to control the tornadoes, and didn't have enough magical energy for any other countermeasures. What Rin didn't know was that back in Fuyuki City, Da Vinci was trembling as she watched the pipes around her constantly bursting. Rin, I can't hold on anymore. It's going to explode. Lorelei looked despairingly at Vento of the front, who was swinging the hammer toward her. Am I going to lose? Boom. Da Vinci's equipment could no longer hold out. Suddenly, the scene shifted instantly from Academy City under the night sky to the sunny El Meloy Manor. Tohsaka Rin stood awkwardly with her hand raised, looking at Lorelei in front of her. The weather is nice today. Is that so? Go to. Ugh. Before Lorelei could activate her magecraft again, Rin acted quickly. She took a step forward, jumped into a scissor kick, and locked Lorelei's neck. As they both fell to the ground, she forcefully pinned Lorelei's right arm. Lorelei struggled with her left hand against Rin's leg to give herself breathing room. At the same time, she noticed the crowd starting to gather around them from the corner of her eye. In a fit of rage and embarrassment, Lorelei made a decision even she hadn't expected. She opened her mouth and bit down on Rin's smooth thigh at the absolute territory. Ah! You're actually biting. Let go. I won't bite, you let go of me first. Feeling the pain from her thigh, Rin's anger also flared up. She bit down on Lorelei's fair forearm in return. Zelrich, who was the first to approach, held his forehead. He looked with a headache at the two genius girls brawling on the ground like little girls. He took off his cloak and threw it over them to cover their clothes, which had been torn during the battle. All right, separate. Mind your appearances. This duel ends here. Rin and Lorelei released each other at the same time, glared at one another, and both huffed humph. The two then separated, lowering their heads in embarrassment as they huddled under Zelrich's cloak. They remained like that until, under the cover of the mercury maids sent by Kenneth, they entered the castle to wash up and change. In the spacious main bathroom of the castle, Rin leaned comfortably against the edge of the pool, looking up at the ceiling. Nearby, Fujino and Sakura, whose clothes were in tatters from Lorelei's earlier attack, stared hostilely at Lorelei, who was sitting next to Rin. Tohsaka Rin, let's call it a draw this time. As someone who fought me to a standstill, I allow you to proudly proclaim your achievement to the magecraft world. Rin turned her head and saw Lorelei's fair thigh nearby. She opened her mouth slightly, hesitated for a long time, but ultimately didn't bite. Lorelei, who had her head lowered, saw Rin staring at her thigh with her mouth opening and closing. She shyly pulled her bath towel down a bit. Hey, there's no need to be so petty. I just bit you once. Didn't you bite me back? Rin turned her head away and rubbed the aching wound on her thigh, curling her lip. If I could beat you, you'd be waiting to be bitten to death by me today. Humph. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 61, Aftermath and Mourning. 1,265 words. Waver looked down at the dozens of cigar butts in the ashtray beside him, then turned to look at the night sky outside the window and sighed. Why haven't Rin and Zelrich come out yet? Late at night, Rin lay on the soft, large bed, her whole body aching, while Da Vinci's complaints kept ringing in her ears. Rin, I'm so miserable. The equipment explosion blew away a third of the workshop. I hadn't even finished cleaning up when Tuko caught me and nagged me all afternoon. I just finished tidying everything. Rin, you have to compensate me. Fine, fine. Tomorrow I'll mail you Britain's most famous dish as compensation. Back in Japan, the soot-covered Da Vinci heard that Rin would bring her a gift and happily used the contract to share her joy with Rin. But what Da Vinci didn't know was that British cuisine was world-famous in modern times as dark cuisine, and the gift the little devil Rin prepared for her was the notorious Stargazy pie. After finishing her conversation with Da Vinci, Rin looked at the night outside and couldn't fall asleep. Recalling Zelrich's guidance during the day, and thinking about the pile of new research topics and the upcoming Holy Grail War, she irritably picked up a magecraft tome from the nightstand. Sister, is Master asleep? X2. Rin, who had just picked up the book, heard the voices from outside and put the book down, speaking toward the door. Sakura, Fujino, I'm still awake. Is something the matter? Come on in. Okay, sister, okay, master, they both replied. Rin watched as Sakura, in her pure white pajamas, and Fujino, in her purple pajamas, walked into the room side by side. She tossed back the covers, went to the tea table, and added tea leaves and water to the teapot. A small magic circle appeared in her hand, and moments later, steam, and the fragrance of tea wafted from the pot. Rin turned to Sakura and Fujino. Don't just stand there. Come and sit, Sakura, Fujino. Rin poured a cup of tea for both Sakura and Fujino before slowly sitting down herself. Seeing the hesitant looks on their faces, she asked. Sakura, Fujino, is something the matter? Just say it, we're family. Hearing Rin's words, Fujino spoke first. I'm sorry, master. It's all my fault that you were so badly injured during the day. I'm sorry, sister. Rin looked at Sakura and Fujino, who were hanging their heads in dejection. With a smile, She walked over and placed a hand on each of their shoulders to comfort them. It's all right. Sakura, Fujino, this isn't your fault. If anything, I should blame myself for being too weak and making my sister and disciple worry about me. Sister. How can you blame yourself? Master. Exactly, how can you blame yourself? All right, Sakura, Fujino. From now on, let's none of us blame ourselves. Besides, we won, so let's be happy, okay? Yes, they both replied. Watching Sakura and Fujino regain their smiles, Rin returned to her seat and began chatting with them. As the clock on the wall hit midnight, Rin stood up and said to Sakura and Fujino. All right, it's 12 o'clock. Tonight's tea party ends here. You should go back to sleep. Fujino nodded and stood up to leave as instructed, but Sakura spoke up with a hint of hesitation. Sister, can I sleep with you tonight? Rin was taken aback. She looked at Sakura and, after a moment's hesitation, nodded. All right, but only for today, Sakura. Beside them, Fujino gave Sakura a jealous look and then turned an eager gaze toward Rin. Ah. You too, Fujino. Fine, you stay as well. But let's get this straight, no moving around in bed. You two must follow the rules. Late at night, an excited Sakura and Fujino lay on either side of the fast-asleep Rin. They gazed at Rin's delicate, cute profile and smelled the fragrance radiating from her body. The two girls spoke to themselves. Sister, Sakura loves you the most. Master, you are my goddess. Atop the distant Big Ben, a blonde, blue-eyed girl in a sky-blue dress had a strange light in her eyes. Looking toward the El Meloy faction's estate, she laughed with a crazed expression. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. Tohsaka Rin, Rin-chan, I look forward to meeting you. My Prince Charming. The next morning, Rin was in the guest hall, pondering Zelrich's guidance. Waver walked in with heavy dark circles under his eyes. Rin glanced at Waver in surprise and asked curiously. Waver, why do you look like a panda? Waver's face contorted slightly as he ranted inwardly, who do you think's fault it is? You all went out and no one notified me, leaving me standing there alone all night. It's nothing, I just didn't rest well last night. By the way, Rin, do you still not plan to see Marisberry Animusphere? Humph, dealing with those guys, wouldn't a proactive visit just be handing over the initiative? I'm in London now, so there's no rush. I'd rather he come looking for me. Then, Rin, do you have time today to give a lecture to the students in my modern magecraft classroom? Rin turned to Waver thoughtfully. Kenneth sent you, didn't he? Don't deny it. Let me guess, I just fought Lorelei to a draw yesterday, and was officially taken in as a disciple by Zelrich, and then I immediately show up to teach in your department of modern magecraft. Is this an attempt to strengthen the perception among Clock Tower Magi of my relationship with you all? Also, you mentioned Marisberry Animusphere just now, is Kenneth afraid I'll be recruited? Waver said nothing. He silently pulled out a cigar and a cigar cutter, looking at Rin without a word. Rin waved her hand, indicating he shouldn't mind her. Seeing Waver light the cigar and start puffing away, she continued. Don't worry, Waver. Unless Marisberry Animusphere hands the entire astronomy department over to me, I, Tohsaka Rin, will always remain under the El Meloy faction. At that moment Rhaenys, who had been eavesdropping outside, pushed the door open and entered. Is that so? Then thank you very much, Miss Tohsaka Rin. My brother will be very happy to hear that. Oh. Rhaenys, good morning. No need to call me Tohsaka Rin, just call me Rin like Waver does. Are you coming along today? Good morning, Rin. I still need to practice hard to inherit the family crest, so I'm afraid I can't go with you. What a pity. Then, Rhaenys, I'll have to ask you to look after my sister and disciple. Of course. Rin, making guests feel at home is my duty as the El Meloy heir. Hearing Rhaenys emphasize the word heir, Rin walked to the door with a smile and turned back to her. Ha ha ha, don't worry, Rhaenys. There's no way your brother would hand the Elmeloi faction over to an outsider like me. Let's not have such uncomfortable conversations in the future. I'll leave Sakura and Fujino to you. Let's go, Waver. After Rin and Waver left, Rhaenys, standing in place, muttered softly. That's hard to say. If you were to marry one of my relatives, my brother might actually hand Elmeloi over to you. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks. Chapter 62, The Clock Tower and Grey. 1,345 words. The Clock Tower, located in a town on the outskirts of London, consists of over 40 student dormitories and more than 100 teaching buildings. In the center of the town stands the Clock Tower's original school building. The entire General Fundamentals department is disguised as a university, while other smaller departments are disguised as university facilities, each with its own district. Beneath the buildings are the research areas for magi, led by workshops and libraries. Naturally, to ordinary people, it is just a legitimate museum, but in its deepest part lies a special area known as the bottom of the bridge, a prison where many magi judged by the association to have talents too outstanding and therefore dangerous are held under sealing designation. Rin and Waver strolled through the Clock Tower campus, occasionally glancing at the ancient buildings around them. Seeing these structures, most of which had been preserved since around the 2nd century AD, Rin couldn't help but feel a bit sentimental. As expected of the highest academy in the world of magecraft. Following Waver, Rin soon arrived at a small building on the edge of the campus. This was the modern magecraft classroom founded by Waver. Since Cainith survived the Fourth War, Waver, who had been taken in as Cainith's disciple, did not follow the path of the original story. Due to his inferior, magical talent, Waver was not initially taken seriously after returning to the country with Cainith. At that time, Waver's poor performance in magical aptitude even made him a temporary laughingstock within the Elmeloi faction. Cainith, who had fully understood Waver through the Holy Grail War, naturally ignored the opinions of the mediocre. He resolutely braved countless doubts to promote Waver to his teaching assistant and aide. With Cainith's support, Waver soon began to show his talent. In just 2 years, while serving as a teaching assistant in the Department of Evocation, he fully demonstrated his talent as a teacher. Subsequently, as a star teacher at the Clock Tower, Waver was admired by a large number of Clock Tower students. He served as a first-class lecturer in the Department of Evocation and the Department of Mineralogy. Until 3 years ago, at Cainith's suggestion and through his own efforts and Cainith's help, Waver successfully became the Lord of the Department of Modern Magecraft and founded the Modern Magecraft Classroom. Rin followed Waver into the small building and went to his office. Gray, who was currently cleaning Waver's office, saw Waver push the door open and was happily preparing to step forward and greet him. However, after seeing Rin follow Waver inside, she froze in place, somewhat frightened. Gray still had a vivid memory of picking up Rin from the airport that night. This girl had been staring at her intently since getting into the car, as if she wanted to eat her up. Seeing Rin again today, Gray couldn't help but feel a little afraid. Rin looked at Gray, who was shivering like a frightened little squirrel while watching her. Feeling a bit mischievous, Rin stepped quickly in front of Waver, shot him a look, and then slowly walked toward Gray with the expression of a big bad wolf. Gray watched Rin get closer and closer and couldn't help but keep backing away until she was against the wall. Rin pinned her against the wall in a cabinet, and then reached out to tilt Gray's chin up. Tisk, tsk, tsk. So similar. Are you very afraid of me? Gray looked at Rin, who was almost pressed against her and staring at her playfully. She was so scared that her eyes were misty with tears, but she didn't dare close them. Rin brought her face close to Gray's and stuck out her tongue to lick the teardrop from the corner of Gray's eye. Are you afraid I'll eat you up? Ah. Finally reaching her limit, Gray let out a scream, pushed Rin away with force, and hid behind Waver, helplessly pulling at his coat, hoping for his help. "All right, Rin, don't take the joke too far." "Yes, yes. But Waver, don't you think your disciple is very cute like this?" Waver thought about Gray's previous performance and nodded unconsciously, then immediately reacted and shook his head in denial. Just then, the office door was pushed open again, and Lovia Gelida Edelfelt, in a blue dress, and with her hair styled in two drill-like drills, walked in. "I knew you'd be here, Tohsaka Rin." "Oh, Lovia, long time no see." Lovia looked at Gray, who was hiding behind Waver, shivering and peeking at Rin, and opened her fan to cover half of her pretty face. Still as twisted as ever, Tohsaka Rin. Years ago, Lovia had dealt with Rin when she went to Finland to collect catalysts. At that time, Lovia, who was not convinced of Rin's reputation as a genius, had challenged Rin as soon as she arrived in Finland. Just like Rin's fight with Lorelei in that duel, although Lovia's physical techniques could rival Rin's, her magecraft was completely crushed by Rin in every aspect. After the duel, Lovia's nightmare began. Would a little devil like Rin let Lovia off easily? While Rin stayed in Finland to handle the catalyst excavation, Lovia was treated like a servant and ordered around constantly. Since then, the name Tohsaka Rin became Lovia's nightmare. "Oh, you've gotten bolder. Lovia, you didn't dare speak to me like that before." "Humph, don't think I'm the same as when I was a kid. I'm not afraid of you now." Rin looked at the Lovia, who was feigning composure, and gave a wicked grin. "If you're not afraid, Lovia, then why don't you dare look at me?" If it were the Lovia of a few days ago, her reaction upon seeing Rin again would have been to challenge her once more. But after the battle between Rin and Lorelei, Lovia also understood that the gap between her and Rin had widened again. Rin put away her wicked grin, walked over to Lovia, and gave her a hug. "I'm just teasing you, Lovia. I'm glad to see you here again." Being hugged by Rin, Lovia watched her warily, thinking Rin was up to some trick again. But after hearing Rin's words, she was stunned for a moment and then reached out to hug Rin back. "I'm also very happy to see you again, Rin." Suddenly, the office door was pushed open again, and several of Waver's students rushed in as a group, noisily asking Waver, "Professor, we heard Tohsaka Rin is here today. Where is she?" "Where?" Yvette L. Lehrman pointed at Rin, who was hugging Lovia, and shouted to her companions. "Look, there she is. The legendary genius Tohsaka Rin, in the flesh." Rin let go of Lovia, her eyes twitching as she watched the students surrounding her like they were looking at a giant panda, magic power surging in her hands. Veins also popped on Waver's forehead. He grabbed Yvette's head, lifted her up, and threw her out the door. Then, before Rin could get angry, he kicked all the students out, leaving only Gray, Rin, and himself. Waver looked at Rin awkwardly and scratched his head. "Sorry, Rin. Sorry for the scene." Rin, who had already calmed down, didn't mind the recent issue and just looked at Waver with amusement. "Waver, the physical strength you just showed is quite impressive. Interested in learning boxing from me?" Gray was stunned. A vision appeared in her mind, Waver in class, facing a strange question from Flat, his clothes bursting to reveal a muscular body, and him sending Flat flying through the ceiling with a vicious punch. She shuddered at the thought. "No, absolutely not. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 63, Brand Magus, read. 1,302 words. Rin followed Waver back to the office, feeling exhausted. In the class just now, Rin felt like she had entered a kindergarten. Facing the endless harassment from the bratty kids in the audience had left her mentally and physically drained. Waver pushed the office door open and then froze at the entrance, causing Rin, who was following closely behind, to bump into his back. "Waver, what are you doing?" Waver ignored Rin and asked toward the room. "Your Excellency the Grand Marshal and Lord Trambilio, it is an honor to have you both here. May I ask what business brings you?" Lorelei and Lord Trambilio, the Lord of the Department of General Fundamentals, and a fellow member of the three great noble families, were seated in Waver's office. Seeing Waver open the door, Trambilio ceased his conversation with Lorelei and curiously peered past Waver to size up Rin behind him. "Oh, so this is Tohsaka Rin." Lorelei set down her teacup and spoke to Waver and Rin. "Both of you, come in." Waver stepped aside to let Rin enter first, then flipped the sign on the door to activate a magecraft boundary before slowly closing the door. Rin curiously observed the middle-aged man before her. From Waver's address, she already knew his identity, Lord Trambilio of the Department of General Fundamentals. Isn't this guy the leader of the Democratic faction? Why would he come looking for me today? Trambilio stood up and gave a slight bow to the curious Rin, speaking with an apologetic tone. "Miss Tohsaka Rin, I am truly sorry. It was due to a lapse in my family's work and a misjudgment of intelligence that led the Department of Magecraft Administration to issue a detention order against you. I have come specifically to apologize for this." Rin was stunned by Trambilio's explanation. To be honest, she hadn't quite figured out yesterday's events herself, and hadn't bothered to, as the situation at the clock tower was far too complex. With so many families, the 12 lords, the 13 departments, the 3 factions, and the 3 great noble families, no amount of underhandedness would be surprising. However, the current development was far beyond her expectations. Unlike Rin, Waver, who had been at the clock tower for over 9 years, was not at all surprised by Trambilio's visit. After Rin's battle with Lorelei, he knew such an outcome was inevitable. Unlike Lorelei, who was raised with vast resources and a 1,000-year heritage, Tohsaka Rin, a genius who emerged from the far eastern desert of magecraft, was actually able to hold her own against Lorelei. This had completely defied everyone's expectations. Although the magecraft world had been hyping up Tohsaka Rin's genius and talent, most families at the top of the hierarchy had scoffed at such rumors. It wasn't until her battle with Lorelei that these families were forced to take her seriously. Rin had now demonstrated potential that matched the rumors. Once she matured, she might become another peak in the world of magecraft. Furthermore, for various families, Rin's value far exceeded Lorelei's. It was precisely for this reason that Trambilio sought Rin out the very next day to seek her forgiveness. Unlike Lorelei, Tohsaka Rin came from the countryside and was female. If a family could win her over, the boost she would provide would be immense. No Magus family would pass up even a sliver of hope for such an opportunity. Without realizing it, Rin had truly become a prize in the eyes of the Magus families across the entire magecraft world. Completely confused by the situation, Tohsaka Rin stood dazed for a moment. She thought for a long time, but still couldn't understand why the Trambilio before her was apologizing. Thus, with the mindset of not offending a lord if she could help it, she spoke up. Although I don't understand why you're apologizing, I forgive you." Waver sighed and massaged his forehead. Why is it that someone so shrewd most of the time drops the ball at the most critical moments? Beside them, Lorelei watched Rin forgive Trambilio and pulled out a document, handing it to her. "Congratulations, Rin. From now on, you are a Magus of the Phase rank. Your assigned color is red. This is the association's evaluation document." Trambilio suddenly interjected. "What's wrong with those people at the association? They didn't even give Rin the title of Grand. This is too much." "Don't worry, Rin, I will definitely help you demand justice from the association." Hearing Trambilio's words, Rin hurriedly waved her hands. Although she had only met 2 casters of the crown so far, she knew full well that she couldn't beat Lorelei, and even against Tuko, she wouldn't win in a real life-and-death struggle. Even escaping would be a luxury. Moreover, her cheating equipment had been destroyed in yesterday's battle with Lorelei and couldn't be rebuilt anytime soon, and she couldn't easily use her other trump cards. If she were given the rank of Grand, she might be crushed to death if some other Grand took a dislike to her. No, thank you for your kindness. I'm already very satisfied with the Fae's rank. Lorelei watched Trambilio put on a show of indignation for Rin's sake and walked over to his side. Enough, you old fox. Drop the act, it's unsightly. Trambilio didn't mind Lorelei's sharp remark. He pulled a box from his coat, placed it on the table, and turned to walk out the door. Lorelei, you're still young, you don't understand these things. Rin, this is an apology gift from the Trambilios. Now, if you'll excuse me. If you ever need help, you can come find me. The Trambilio family welcomes you. Once Trambilio left Waver's office, Lorelei picked up the box from the table and tossed it into Rin's arms. Take it, Rin. This is what you deserve. Rin nodded and put the box away, then asked Lorelei. Lorelei, why did you come looking for me today? Surely it wasn't just to deliver my rank certificate. Of course not. Rin, I'm here to extend an invitation. Are you interested in joining me to exterminate a child of Fiharan? A child of Fiharan? Where? When? Trambilio provided me with information. The Mystic Eye Collection train will encounter a child of Fiharan on its journey this time. Well, interested. The Mystic Eye Collection train. I wasn't planning to get involved, but it looks like I'll have to go. I can arrange my meeting with Marisberry Animusphere on that train. Maybe I'll even see the young director. Thinking this, Rin nodded to Lorelei. No problem, Lorelei. I accept your invitation. But I'll leave the invitation letter to you. After concluding her talk with Lorelei, Rin followed Waver out of the clock tower to a small shop on a street for ordinary people to have lunch. Waver, I have a favor to ask. Please help me notify Marisberry Animusphere that I want to meet him on the Mystic Eye Collection train this time. All right, Rin. I'll arrange for someone to notify him this afternoon. By the way, Rin, why do you care so much about Grey? Your behavior doesn't seem to be just because of her looks. That's because. Waver, can you lend Grey to me for a while? In exchange, I invite you to participate in this Holy Grail War as a representative of the 3 founding families. Recommendation, My Online Wife Izumaru. Written by a silly loli. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks. Chapter 64, Stargazy Pie and Saggiumonica. 1,342 words. Rin. I must refuse. The Holy Grail War, what a haunting dream. Waver recalled that majestic figure in his mind, thinking of everything regarding that king, but he still flatly refused Rin's proposal. Rin, having been rejected, propped her chin on her hand with a faint smile, her other hand unconsciously stirring the borscht in front of her with a spoon. Waver, don't you want to see that great emperor again? Have you given up your status as his retainer? Waver, Grey is a product created by the clan of Morgan Le Fay, right? Don't worry, I have no interest in resurrecting King Arthur. I just intend to borrow Grey to participate in the Holy Grail War. With her identity, she can be a trump card for me even without a catalyst. Waver stared intently at Rin, sizing her up for a long time. Rin, you're lying. You have another motive. Ah la la, I've been seen through. Yes, I do have another motive, but that's a secret. But rest assured, I will absolutely not harm Grey. Not one bit. Rin, you must guarantee that you won't harm Grey. Of course, I promise. Then, I look forward to cooperating with you in the Holy Grail War. After saying that, Rin reached out her hand. After a moment's hesitation, Waver also reached out and shook Rin's hand firmly. After finishing lunch, Rin declined the invitation to go back to the modern magecraft classroom to lecture the students, instead wandering alone through the ancient streets of the clock tower district. Looking at the elegant surroundings, Rin sat down casually on a roadside bench, tilting her head back to look at the gloomy sky. Is it going to rain? Sigh, I still have to go by Stargazy Pie for Da Vinci in a bit. Ugh, what a hassle. Do you want this? Hearing a voice, Rin was suddenly startled and turned her head toward the source. Oh, did I disturb you? Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sagia Monica, a student of General Fundamentals. It's a pleasure to meet you, Rin. After Aika finished speaking, she placed the Stargazy Pie she was holding onto the bench and happily skipped away, vanishing from Rin's sight. Am I dreaming? Rin pinched her thigh hard. Feeling the pain, she looked at the Stargazy Pie on the bench and picked it up with a slightly trembling hand. Sagia Monica. Why would the princess of the root appear? Damn it, am I really being watched by the root? Her heart full of unease, Rin casually tossed the Stargazy Pie into a roadside trash can, and hurriedly left the clock tower in a panic. Not long after Rin left, Sagia Monica emerged from behind a nearby tree. With a gloomy expression, she walked to the trash can and pulled out the Stargazy Pie that Rin had thrown away. Rin-chan, you're being naughty. I spent all night making this. I must give you a lesson. But you really do know me. I so want to eat you up, Rin. La 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 la. With a distorted expression, Aika slammed the Stargazy Pie onto the ground. Suddenly, her face changed again, revealing a brilliant smile, and she hummed a little tune as she disappeared down the street. Rin walked out of the clock tower district in a panic and arrived at the commercial street outside. Suddenly, a drop of rain hit her face. Only then did Rin stop, look up at the sky where the rain had started to fall, and walk into a random roadside mall to seek shelter. Rin, what are you doing here? Standing at the mall entrance and watching the rain outside, Rin turned her head to see Livia staring at her with a curious look. Rin turned around to scan the environment of the mall first, then asked Livia. Livia, is this your family's mall? I just came in to get out of the rain. Seeing Rin easily recognize her family's mall, Livia covered her mouth and laughed with some pride. Livia, who had just been inspecting her family's new mall upstairs, suddenly noticed someone ignoring the magecraft effects in the mall and lingering by the entrance. She had thought it was just some clock tower student and didn't pay much mind, but as she got closer, the figure looked more and more familiar. Rin actually remembers our family's style. I'm so touched. Rin curled her lip. With this nouveau riche style, I can't think of anyone else in the magecraft world who would use it besides your family. Rin, do you want to take a tour of my family's mall? Rin looked at Livia and shook her head. No thanks, Livia. I'm not really interested in shopping. I'll leave once the rain stops. Livia looked at the intensity of the rain outside, and then extended an invitation to Rin. Rin, the rain outside probably won't stop for a while. Why don't you come to my office for some afternoon tea? All right then, sorry for the trouble, Livia. Rin followed Livia to the office on the top floor of the mall. Once Livia had gracefully brought out the tea snacks and brewed the black tea, the two began to chat in Livia's office. Rin, you didn't know, did you? My mall's defense system had an issue a few days ago. Yes, I know. Oh right, you're staying at Rhaenys's place. She must have told you. Rin certainly wasn't going to tell Livia she knew from the case files of Lord Elmeloy too. She nodded casually in agreement and then asked Livia. Livia, do you know Sagia Monica? Sagia Monica. Livia thought carefully for a moment and then said. Yes. Livia, can you tell me about her? Rin, why are you asking about her? Livia curiously questioned Rin back, but seeing Rin's serious expression, she slowly relayed the information she knew about Sagia Monica. As far as I know, Sagia Monica is somewhat famous at the clock tower. At 14, many professors already call her a genius. However, due to her eccentric personality, she seems to have no friends and often comes and goes like a ghost. No one knows exactly what she's doing. Oh, and she seems to have come from the Far East, just like you. Is that all? Yes. Although she's a bit famous at the clock tower, there are too many star students. Compared to them, she's a nobody, so naturally, no one pays much attention to her. But Rin, where did you hear about her? Rin's face looked a bit disappointed as she waved her hand at Luvia. I ran into her today, so I was curious, and wanted to ask about her situation. Luvia's eyes lit up. Seeing Rin's disappointed look, she seemed to think of something. Rin, your face doesn't look right. Although I don't know why you want information on her, I can help you investigate. In return, just practice some combat with me. How about it? Rin actually understood that the princess of the route, Saggiamonica, wouldn't let these mortals get any information from her. But with a glimmer of hope, Rin still nodded and agreed to Luvia's request. Seeing Rin nod in agreement, Luvia hurriedly pulled out her fan to cover her face, preventing Rin from seeing her excited expression. Rin, although my magecraft isn't as good as yours, my wrestling skills won't lose to your 8 extremities fist. Is a sweet revenge coming? Inside the mall, in the area where Luvia usually practiced wrestling, Rin and Luvia, having changed their clothes, were facing each other, waiting for the other to show a weakness. Recommendation: domestic animation should strengthen itself. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 65, Muscle. 1,424 words. A large number of customers in the mall looked up curiously toward the top floor, where noises were constantly coming from. Are they renovating? Top floor wrestling practice room. An absent-minded Rin and an excited Luvia began an intense struggle. Using her nimble footwork, Rin constantly dodged Luvia's grappling attempts. Rin, is dodging all you can do? No, Luvia. Smack. Rin took advantage of the gap in Luvia's speech to strike her in the chest, sending Luvia flying back to crash heavily against the wall. Luvia clutched her chest, her face flushed as she stood back up. Where are you hitting? Damn it. Rin, don't let me catch you. Rin assumed a boxing stance and beckoned Luvia with her finger. Come. Damn you. Luvia took a deep breath and lunged at Rin with a flying knee. Rin crossed her arms to take the blow, then slid her left foot between Luvia's legs, using the momentum to drive her shoulder into Luvia's chest. As Luvia was knocked over, a sharp glint flashed in her eyes. The moment she hit the ground, she wrapped her legs around Rin's left leg and pulled, dragging Rin down with her. Not good, I can't beat this girl in a ground game. Just as Rin expected, as soon as she hit the ground, Luvia swarmed over her. After only a brief struggle, Luvia had her in a chokehold. Rin channeled a large amount of magical energy to reinforce her neck and maintain her breathing, then began trying to pry Luvia's hands open. Stop struggling, Rin. I'll let go as soon as you admit defeat, otherwise I'll choke you unconscious. After finally getting into position, Rin struggled to her feet, bringing Luvia up with her. Having gained some room to maneuver, Rin repeatedly unleashed her Scorpio tail whip. Smack. 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 Because of the height difference, Rin's legs could only kick Luvia's buttocks. Feeling the burning sensation on her rear, Luvia couldn't help but loosen the strength in her arms. Rin took the opportunity to pry Luvia's arms open and escaped her lock. Cough, cough, cough. Luvia, her face flushed red, clutched her buttocks and glared with shame and indignation at Rin, who was coughing and clutching her throat nearby. How did you become so dirty? Cough, it was an accident. All right, let's call it a day. Hearing Rin's words, Luvia proudly put her hands on her hips. Fine, but Rin, consider today your loss. Rin, who was already somewhat distracted, waved her hand dismissively. Fine, I lose. Seeing Rin admit defeat so easily, Luvia lost her enthusiasm. There's no sense of accomplishment like this. After relaying Rin's request to Marisberry Animusphere, the astronomy branch lord, Waver arrived at Kenneth's office. Master, why did you ask for me? Sitting at his desk, Kenneth looked at the entering Waver. He first opened a drawer, pulled out an invitation, and placed it on the desk before speaking to Waver. Waver, keep this invitation safe. For this Mystic Eye Collection train, you will bring Gray and accompany me. Waver pulled over a nearby stool, walked to the desk, and sat opposite Kenneth. He then took a pre-cut cigar from Kenneth's desk and slowly lit it. Is this still for Rin? Master, don't you think you're sacrificing too much for her? Kenneth didn't answer Waver's question, but instead suddenly spoke of a dream. Waver, on the first night after I returned from participating in the Holy Grail War, I had a dream, a terrifying dream. Waver looked at Kenneth in confusion, waiting for him to continue. I dreamed that I died in the Holy Grail War, killed by Kiritsugu Amiya. Sola also betrayed me and died in that ruined factory. The magic crest was destroyed, and the El Meloy family fell into ruin. A young Rhaenys found you, and had you inherit my position as lord. At this point, Kenneth stopped, a hint of fear showing in his eyes as he picked up the cigar from the desk and put it in his mouth. Waver took out a lighter to light the cigar for Kenneth, and asked in confusion. Master, that was just a dream. Why do you care so much? Kenneth exhaled a cloud of smoke and said slowly. Waver, that wasn't a dream. It was too real. It was as if I had experienced it all once before and... Kenneth removed his glove, revealing old scars on his hand. I've always told you that I was accidentally injured during an experiment, right? No. In truth, these appeared on my hand the morning after I had that dream. At the same time, a voice in my heart has been telling me that it was because of Rin that all of this changed, and only Rin can make El Meloy soar. Waver's pupils shrank as he looked at Kenneth in stunned silence. Master. Could it be some phantasmal species or some kind of mystery at work? Kenneth put his glove back on and shook his head at Waver. Waver, whatever could enter my dreams so silently and leave scars on my hand, whatever it is, we have no way to resist it, do we? Kenneth then put down his cigar, stood up, and went to the window, looking out at the heavy rain with his hands behind his back. Waver, since we can't resist, we might as well follow its arrangements. Besides, helping Rin has brought no small benefit to our El Meloy family. Waver picked up the invitation from the desk, tucked it into his coat, stood up, and bowed to Kenneth with his hand over his chest. I understand, Master. Good. Just don't forget to bring your disciple, Gray. Yes, Master. As evening approached, Rin, who had been drinking tea with Luvia all afternoon, rubbed her full stomach. Looking at the heavy rain outside, which showed no sign of stopping, she helplessly called Waver. Rin then stood up to say goodbye to Luvia, and went to the entrance of the shopping center. Before long, Waver drove up to the entrance in his car. Rin carefully avoided several puddles, walked to Waver's car, opened the door, and got in. Taking the towel Waver handed her, she wiped the rain from her head and face. Thanks, Waver. Sorry to trouble you to come pick me up. Waver put away the towel and started the car, eyes fixed forward. I received your message. I was going to send a servant, but I just happened to get off work, so I came myself. Rin rested her chin on her hand, looking at the rainy scenery outside, and asked casually. Waver, do you still have the catalyst you used to summon the King of Conquerors? I've kept it well preserved. Why, Rin, is there a problem? Nothing, just asking. After the car returned to the castle, Rin took a bath alone, then was led by a servant to the dining room. Kenneth, sitting at the head of the table, greeted Rin as she walked in and then asked. Rin, how was your trip to the clock tower today? It was good. It truly is the highest academy in the world of magecraft. Sola, beside Kenneth, said with a smile. So, Rin, do you have any plans to take a position at the clock tower? Our mineralogy branch would very much welcome you to teach. Rin first looked at Sakura and Fujino beside her before slowly speaking. I do have a plan to move my family to England after the next Holy Grail War is over. However, there are still some issues that haven't been handled, so I can't decide on a position at the clock tower for now. Waver looked at Rin in surprise. You plan to give up the Tohsaka family's spiritual ley lines and ancestral property in Fuyuki City? No, it's just my family moving. I can entrust the management of the ley lines and ancestral property to Toko Aozaki. If Toko is unwilling, I can also entrust it to the local church or other acquaintances. I won't give up the ley lines and ancestral property. At this point, Rhaenys, who was nearby, said with a smile. Aren't you afraid someone will plot to seize your Tohsaka family's ley lines and ancestral property? Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 66, The Mystic Eye Collection Train, the Old Director and the Director. 1,298 words. After dinner, Rin returned to the guest room with Sakura and Fujino. Master, what's up with that Rhaenys? She was being so sarcastic just now. Rin shook her head, then placed a hand on Fujino's shoulder and explained. Fujino, it's my fault. Rhaenys is just worried that I'll take her status as the Elmeloy heir. She's just overthinking it. Sister, what's going on with this? I'm not really sure myself. I haven't paid attention to news in the magecraft world for a long time. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Sakura, Fujino, what do you think of my decision to move to London later? Fujino shrugged indifferently, then glanced at Sakura out of the corner of her eye. I'll follow whatever arrangements you make, Master. But as for Sakura, I don't know if she can bear to leave her playmates in Fuyuki City. Hearing Fujino's sarcasm, Sakura glared at her, but what Fujino said was the truth. Sakura indeed found it hard to part with her friends in Fuyuki City. Sister, if we move to London in the future, will it be hard to see Aunt Toko, Shiro, Shinji, Sister Taiga, Colin, and Kirai? Rin rested her chin in her hand, leaning on the table, and thought for a moment before speaking. Kirai and his family should be fine. I can try to get them to a church near London. As for Toko, I can't figure her out, but I'm afraid it will be rare to see Shinji and Taiga. Is that so? I understand, sister. Seeing Sakura's dejected mood, Rin felt a pang of sympathy and pulled her into a hug, comforting her. Don't worry, Sakura. Taiga's family has lived in Fuyuki City for generations. She won't leave easily. As one of the 3 founding families, Shinji will likely be the same. If you really miss them in the future, you can go back to Fuyuki City to visit them anytime. Besides, once Da Vinci realizes that technology, it will only take a blink of an eye to get from London to Fuyuki City. Listening to Rin's comfort, Sakura was still downcast, but she also understood that this might be the best possible outcome. In order not to worry Rin, Sakura put on a happy face on the surface. That's great, sister. Although Sakura had a happy expression on her face, Rin, who knew her well, could still see from her small movements that this was just a facade. Not knowing how else to comfort Sakura, Rin could only hold her and hum the nursery rhymes they loved most as children. Fujino, seeing this warm scene, was consumed with jealousy, thinking to herself, maybe I should act pitiful in the future too. Maybe then I could be the one lying in Master's arms. Late at night, Rin lay in bed and opened the system panel she hadn't opened in a long time. System. It's been a long time. Tohsaka Rin, how can I serve you? Nothing, just wanted to thank you for your help before. Assisting you in becoming the god of magecraft is the duty of this system. No thanks are necessary. System, can you tell me about your origin? Tohsaka Rin, you do not need to know now. When the time is right, you will naturally find out. You only need to know now that I exist for you. Heh. Is that so? Early the next morning, after Rin quickly finished washing up with Sakura and Fujino, she went with Kainith and Rhaenys to a remote station in the London suburbs. Soon after, Waver also appeared slowly from the mist with his disciple, Grey. Rin, you're here. Lorelei looked at Rin, who was following Kainith and the others into the station, greeted her haughtily, and then handed over the invitation in her hand. Rin took the invitation, nodded to Lorelei and replied. Lorelei, good morning. At that moment, Marisbury Animusphere, who was standing nearby, approached Rin with his daughter, Olga Marie Animusphere, and reached out his hand. Tohsaka Rin, you really are difficult to invite. Rin also reached out and shook Marisbury's hand, then looked at Olga Marie, the director in the eyes of FGO players in her past life. Rin sized up Olga Marie before her, marveling in her heart, the 11-year-old director. Being stared at so unscrupulously by Rin, Olga Marie's face turned red, and she timidly hid behind Marisbury, blocking Rin's gaze. Seeing Rin's reaction, Marisbury smiled and stepped aside to reveal his daughter, then introduced her. Tohsaka Rin, this is my daughter Olga Marie. Please look after her in the future. Rin looked at the young Olga Marie playfully and nodded to Marisbury. Don't worry, I will definitely take good care of little sister Olga Marie in the future. Kainith stroked his chin and glanced at Rhaenys nearby. Is Rhaenys too old? Does Rin like the little sister type? Meanwhile, the Magi who had come for the Mystic Eye auction were all watching Rin, and the others nervously. The pressure brought by 3 lords of the clock tower was simply too immense. Some Magi even began to lose their nerve, and were quietly moving toward the exit of the station. Adashino Hishiri, standing behind Lorelei, covered her mouth and laughed. I didn't expect a mere Mystic Eye auction to actually draw 3 families of clock tower lords. I suppose this isn't the charm of the Mystic Eyes, but rather the charm of Miss Tohsaka Rin. Hearing Adashino Hishiri's words, the surrounding Magi couldn't help but nod, secretly breathing a sigh of relief. Once they knew the purpose of these lords, they were no longer afraid. A few of the bolder ones even began to size up Rin and the others. Seeing Adashino Hishiri act this way, Waver quietly pulled her aside and asked curiously. Adashino Hishiri, as someone who came to participate in the Mystic Eye auction, what is your goal in helping those Magi? Waver, why do you assume I must have a goal for doing this? Waver looked at Adashino Hishiri and shrugged indifferently. Clack. At that moment, the doors of the Mystic Eye collection train slowly opened amidst a puff of steam. Rin turned to look at the opening doors and said to Marisbury, who was chatting with her. Lord Marisbury, let's continue our chat on the train. Everyone, let's board first. The group nodded. Everyone made way for Lorelei to go to the very front, stepping onto the Mystic Eye collection train first, followed by Kainith and Marisbury. Once the 3 lords had boarded, the others followed behind them. Grey, who was at the back of the group, jogged a few steps to catch up to Olga Marie. Having been told by Waver that she would be following Rin for a while, Grey felt as if she had found a comrade. She took Olga Marie's hand and whispered. You're also very scared of Miss Tohsaka Rin's gaze, aren't you? Olga Marie stopped and frowned at Grey, who had suddenly grabbed her, but hearing Grey's words, she shuddered, remembering Rin's way of sizing her up. And you are? Grey only then realized she had been far too rude, and hurriedly let go of Olga Marie's hand. Hello, Miss Olga Marie. I am Lord Waver's disciple, Grey. You've also been stared at like that by that Tohsaka Rin. Yes. It's that kind of look, like she's looking at prey, they said in unison. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 67, Chapter 67, The Chaldea Project and Rin's Opportunity. 1,518 words. After boarding the Mystic Eye Collection train, Rin casually looked over the interior decorations and the guests on board. There really are magi from all over the world. Similarly, the magi from all over the world on the train cast curious glances at Rin's group. After all, traveling with 3 clock tower lords would be eye-catching anywhere. Just as Rin and the others had found an empty table and sat down, the carriage door opened again. A figure wearing clerical robes appeared at the entrance, attracting the gaze of most of the magi, hostile gazes. Rin and Sakura looked at the incoming figure in surprise and shouted together. Grandpa Li Yuan. Kodomine Risei, who had just entered the carriage, was also stunned. He looked at the two Tohsaka sisters. Although he hadn't seen them for 9 years, these two girls had left a deep impression on him when they were little, allowing him to recognize them at a glance. It's you two, Rin and Sakura. Rin and Sakura quickly rose from their seats and went to Kodomine Risei. Ignoring the hostile glares of the surrounding magi, they affectionately pulled the old man, who had helped their family many times, to their table. As soon as they sat down, Rin asked Kodomine Risei curiously. Grandpa Li Yuan, why did you come to the Mystic Eye Collection train? Oh, an old friend of mine passed away last month. I'm following his final wishes to bring his Mystic Eye here for auction, to leave an inheritance for his descendants. Rin was stunned to hear this. That African old man from the original story is dead. After answering Rin's question, Kodomine Risei turned his head to look at everyone at the table. It seems the little girl from back then has truly soared to the heavens now. At the same time, Kodomine Risei could feel that the lords and nobles present did not welcome him. They were only holding back for Rin's sake. So he stood up, made an excuse, and walked to a corner to sit alone. Rin also understood Kodomine Risei's choice. She comforted the confused Sakura, and then began to chat with the others. A short while later, a man in a uniform and a woman with her eyes covered entered the carriage. I apologize for interrupting your pleasant conversation. I am the auctioneer for this event, Leandra. At the auction 3 days from now, we will be showcasing many precious mystic eyes. I hope none of you will leave with regrets. I am the conductor, Rodan. The Mystic Eye Collection train will now depart on schedule. As the conductor's voice fell, the sound of a whistle blew. Rin clearly felt the train begin to move slowly, then faster and faster. As the train started, the magi in the carriage also left one by one, heading to the rooms they had been assigned upon boarding. Marisberry then extended an invitation to Rin, asking her to join him in his room for a talk. Waver also looked at his teacher, Kenneth. Kenneth shook his head at Waver, then turned and led Rhaenys out of the carriage. After instructing Sakura and Fujino to return to their rooms first, Rin followed Marisberry and Olga Marie to their room. After entering the room, Rin and Marisberry took their respective seats, while Olga Marie stood obediently behind Marisberry. Rin, I'll get straight to the point. My invitation explained everything in detail. Will you allow my participation in this Holy Grail war? Rin shook her head decisively. She understood that she was not currently in the FGO timeline. If she agreed to let Marisberry participate in this Holy Grail war and face the corrupted Holy Grail, God knows where the timeline would veer off to. Is that so? Then this is quite difficult. If I participate through the association's quota, or through the other two families, I'm afraid you would view me as an enemy in this Holy Grail war. It's truly a bother. I really don't want to face you. Saying this, Marisberry pulled a stack of photos from his coat and tossed them onto the table. Rin picked up the photos and glanced through a few. Her expression gradually became solemn. Actually, after obtaining this information, I gave up on participating in this Holy Grail war. Just now, I was merely holding on to a final sliver of reluctance. As expected of the head of the 3 founding families who created the Fuyuki City Holy Grail War ritual, with the servant Da Vinci, the caster of the crown Tuko Aozaki, plus the local church and the catalysts you've collected over the years, this Holy Grail War is already in your pocket. So, Lord Marisbury, what exactly do you mean? Or rather, what exactly do you want from me? Rin, I have already found a path that leads to the root. For this, I am willing to pay any price. If you are willing to join my plan, I can pass the position of Astronomy Branch Lord to you. How about it? And the price? I need a massive amount of funds, and all the data you possess regarding servants, and the construction of the Holy Grail ritual. If you can agree to my demands, not only can I sign the documents now to list you as the primary heir of the astronomy branch, but you will also become the vice director in the Chaldea project I mentioned. Regardless of whether the plan succeeds on the day I disappear, you will automatically become the astronomy branch lord and the director of Chaldea. Can you disclose your plan? Also, how much money do you need? Rin, if you were to obtain a method to reach the root, would you disclose it to me? As for the funds, I need $500 billion US. $500 billion US. Rin cried out in shock. Afterward, Rin stopped her surprise and began to think while biting her thumb. $500 billion. It seems my net worth is only around $1 billion, which means even if I sold myself several hundred times over, it wouldn't be enough. How could I possibly come up with that much money? Even selling the entire Tohsaka family wouldn't be enough. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration hit Rin as she remembered a certain golden figure. Right, that guy Gil. Didn't he say we'd meet again in 10 years? I wasn't even planning on summoning him this time, but it seems this is the reason Gil was so sure we'd meet again 10 years ago. It must be. Just you wait, Gil, I'm going to bleed you dry this time. Thinking of the source for the $500 billion, Rin regained her composure and looked at Olga Marie behind Marisbury. Then what about Olga Marie? Is she willing to give all this up? Olga Marie looked at Rin, who was staring at her, took a deep breath, mustered her courage to take a step forward and said to Rin. I am willing to follow my father's arrangements, but I also have my conditions. The one to inherit all this can only be you, it cannot include your descendants. You must also add the surname Animusphere as an alias to your name. In other words, whether it's the position of Lord or the position of Chaldea Director, it must ultimately return to the Animusphere family. Is that all? You don't seem to have mentioned yourself. If I inherit all this and then kick you out, would that be fine? At this moment, Marisbury stood up, took Olga Marie's small hand, and walked in front of Rin. If you agree to the trade, Rin, we can sign the Self-Hayes scrolls and documents now. However, as a father, I have one more personal request. I hope you can take Olga Marie as your adopted younger sister. Rin had actually just been acting on her inner little devil, intending to scare Olga Marie, but seeing the father and daughter take it so seriously, a helpless smile appeared on her lips as she nodded to them. In an unknown space within the Mystic Eye Collection train, Dr. Hatrez, covered in blood, slowly walked in with a dark shadow. Aika. I have summoned the servant as you requested. P.S. This book will enter FGO. Book recommendation, a Tyrannosaurus, stand at the top of the food chain. Roughly a story about a Tyrannosaurus with a human soul, fighting various monsters in different myths. Bell transmigrated as a Tyrannosaurus. Biting through a pterosaur's neck in one go, smashing a Dilophosaurus's head with a tail swipe. Tearing apart Carcharodontosaurus alive, raw-eating Giganotosaurus. From Cthulhu the giant octopus above, to Fenrir the little dog below. Fighting across the world without an equal. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks. Chapter 68, Murder Case. 1,305 words. Aika giggled and pressed her hand against the servant's chest. A stream of dark red magical energy flowed from her hand onto the servant's body, making the servant struggle and howl in madness. Roar. Ha ha ha. Rin-chan, I think you'll definitely like this meeting gift. After signing the contract with Marisberry, Rin hummed a little tune, and jogged all the way back to her room. As soon as she entered the door, Rin couldn't wait to shout to Sakura. Sakura! I have some good news for you. Sakura looked strangely at Rin, who had burst through the door and pulled her into a hug. Sister, what happened? Sakura, didn't I say I'd let you live in a big castle like a princess? At that moment, Waver brought Gray to the outside of Kenneth's room, knocked and then opened the door and walked in. Master, Rhaenys. Grandmaster, Miss Rhaenys. Waver, you've arrived. Rhaenys met Waver and walked to the sofa. Only after Waver sat down did she sit beside him, looking at Kenneth sitting opposite them. Gray, however, didn't receive such treatment and could only stand by the sofa watching them. Master, why didn't you stop Rin from having a private talk with Marisberry just now? Didn't you say? At this point, Waver remembered something and stopped talking. There was no need. What can that fellow Marisberry give Rin that we can't? Could he possibly give the entire Animusphere family to Rin? Then Master, if we didn't come to the Mystic Eye Collection train to stop the meeting between Rin and Marisberry, what are we here for? Dr. Hatrez, your predecessor, as the head of the Department of Modern Magecraft. I received intelligence that someone saw him board this train in France. My goal this time is him. I don't understand, Master. Spirit Tomb Albion. I've investigated and found that fellow is a survivor from the Spirit Tomb. I have decided that the Elmeloy faction must strengthen its voice regarding Spirit Tomb Albion, so I plan to capture him to obtain more information. However, you and Gray don't need to worry about this, I'll handle it. You two prepare yourselves during this time. I hope to see you again after accompanying Rin in the Holy Grail War. Hearing Kenneth's words, Gray paused and looked at Waver. Master, is the Holy Grail War really that dangerous? Gray, although the Holy Grail War itself is dangerous, there's no need to worry if you're with Rin. I suspect this will be another personal show of hers. Those idiots eyeing the Holy Grail will probably die miserable deaths. Lunchtime. Rin took Sakura and Fujino out of their room, and arrived at the dining car. Look, that's Tohsaka Rin. I really want to win her over. With her, a family could probably save 100 years of struggle. Hey, keep it down, don't let her hear you. Rin had long since grown accustomed to these magi. Ignoring the group, she came to an empty table and sat down with Sakura and Fujino. Miss Tohsaka Rin, it's been a few days. You are still as radiant as ever. At that moment, a young man carrying a glass of red wine walked over to Rin's table with feigned elegance and sat down beside her as if they were old friends. Who the hell are you? Has Miss Tohsaka Rin forgotten? We just met a few days ago at the Elmeloy family banquet. Ah, right, I forgot to introduce myself. I am William Brisheson, the second son of the Lord of the Department of Lore. The newcomer was exactly the young man who had previously said at the Elmeloy banquet that Rin's mage circuits exceeded 100. Oh, hello William. If there's nothing else, please move. I'm going to have a meal with my sister and disciple. Facing Rin's dismissal, William Brisheson remained unmoved. He thick-headedly stayed by Rin's side, with no intention of leaving. Oh, Miss Tohsaka Rin, you're planning to eat too? That's perfect, let's join together. Rin's eye twitched as she looked at this shameless man. She slapped the table and stood up. Hey! Can't you understand human speech? I'm telling you to leave, don't you get it? Such a blunt eviction left William Brisheson, this pampered scion, frozen in embarrassment. But knowing the gap between himself and Rin, he didn't dare cause a scene here. He could only leave the dining car dejectedly. Rin didn't take the small matter of shooing away a fly to heart. Once William Brisheson left, she called over a waiter and began ordering. After leaving the dining car, William Brisheson's face instantly darkened. He cursed Rin through gritted teeth as he strode back to his room. Damn country monkey, how dare she reject the friendship of the Brisheson family? Oh, were you saying Rin-chan is a monkey? William Brisheson, who had just opened his door, was taken aback. Looking at the young girl before him, he asked. Who are you? Was it you who just called Rin-chan a monkey? Feeling the malice emanating from Aika, William Brisheson also sensed something was wrong. He turned around in a panic, intending to open the door and flee the room. Damn it, why won't it open? It really was you. Hey, would you please die? Rin-chan is my prince, she'll definitely love your head as a gift. With that, Aika grinned. Countless shadow hands stretched out from William Brisheson's shadow, pinning him firmly in place. Then, a cleaver made of shadows appeared in Aika's hand. With a hideous expression, she walked toward the trapped William Brisheson. Aya Iyawa. Rin, who had just finished lunch and returned to her room with Sakura and Fujino, suddenly received a notice from the auctioneer. She was summoned to a carriage along with a group of confused magi. When everyone arrived at the carriage, the auctioneer and the conductor finally revealed the reason for the gathering. Sorry to disturb your lunch break, but a murder case has occurred on this train, so we have routinely gathered everyone for notification. Upon hearing this news, the magi began to whisper among themselves, falling into a state of chaos. Waver frowned as he looked at the chattering magi and stepped forward. Quiet, please be quiet. Miss Auctioneer, who is the deceased, who discovered the scene, and how is the scene being maintained now? As Waver asked several key questions, the crowd stopped their discussion and looked at the auctioneer. The deceased is William Brisheson. The scene was discovered by the conductor. He found the murder while patrolling when he noticed blood seeping from William Brisheson's room. The scene is currently being kept as it was. Lorelei, who had come along with the mindset of watching the spectacle, heard the name of the deceased and gave a bored yawn, turning back toward her room. Boring. If a piece of trash dies, he dies. I'm going back to my room. Don't disturb me again if it's just such a trivial matter. Marisberry similarly shrugged and left the carriage with Olga Marie without saying a word. Waver, you can handle this. Rhaenys, let's go, we'll take a walk around the train. With the departure of the three lords, the magi fell into chaos again. Some magi even whispered to their companions about how William Brisheson might have been killed by a certain lord. Rin, who had also intended to leave, was stunned when she heard the name William Brisheson. A bad premonition arose in her heart. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks. Chapter 69, Monica attacks. 1,419 words. With a heavy heart, Rin followed Waver and the others to William Brisheson's room. Before even entering the door, she smelled a thick scent of blood. Seeing the scene in the room, Rin covered her mouth, blocked Sakura and Fujino from the doorway, and then began to gag. Waver frowned as he looked at William Brisheson's corpse. His limbs had been severed with a sharp weapon, and his entire torso had been ripped open. A snow-white spine, mixed with blood and shredded muscle, was exposed to the air. More importantly, William Brisheson's head was nowhere to be found. Himakuri Adashino raised her arm, using her sleeve to hide her expression, and spoke in a cold voice. How tragic. Lord Waver, what do you think? Waver ignored Himakuri Adashino. Instead, he crouched down, a magical light emanating from his hand, and began to examine the corpse. At this point, Rin could no longer stand the bloody scene. She pulled Sakura and Fujino away from the crime scene, and walked toward the rear of the train, intending to get some fresh air there. When Rin brought Sakura and Fujino to the rear storage car, a figure appeared before her that made her hair stand on end. Seeing Monica before her, covered in blood, wearing a morbid smile, and staring at her obsessively, Rin hurriedly shielded Sakura and Fujino behind her. Sagiu Monica. Rin-chan, you've come. Rin-chan, this is my gift to you. Please take it. As she spoke, Monica opened a box on a nearby table, pulled out William Brishison's head, and casually tossed it at Rin's feet. Because Rin had protected her too well, Sakura, who had always lived in a peaceful environment, was terrified the moment she saw the head. She let out a scream and covered her eyes, not daring to look again. Fujino, who had experienced much alongside Rin, was in better shape. Although she felt some physiological discomfort, she forced herself to endure it. While supporting Sakura, a rainbow light appeared in her eyes, ready to assist Rin in attacking Monica at any moment. Monica seemed to only just notice Sakura and Fujino behind Rin. Her eyes filled with murderous intent as she looked at them, and a terrifying magical energy erupted from her, enough to make an ordinary magus tremble all over. Oh no! Rin immediately realized that Monica had shifted her target to her sister and disciple. She cried out in her heart and quickly shouted, "Fujino, take Sakura away immediately. Go find Lorelei, Kenneth, and Marisberry for help, quick. Rin-chan, this is our date. Why look for others?" A burst of black and red magical energy exploded from Monica, instantly pulling the entire carriage into a certain alternate space. "Rin-chan, after I deal with these two people who are disturbing our date, let me eat you up." Hearing Monica's words, Rin's expression became grave. "Sakura, pull yourself together. Fujino, you take care of Sakura first." After speaking, Rin pulled out a gem containing starlight, recklessly drawing the starlight from the gem in hopes of quickly entering starlight mode. "Rin-chan, are you going to reject me? I'm so sad." "Rin-chan, you're a bad child." Gah. Rin, who was accumulating starlight, looked in disbelief as a spike extending from her own shadow pierced through her abdomen. Intense pain struck in an instant, and Rin vomited a mouthful of blood. The severe pain forced her spell casting to be interrupted, and the starlight she had just gathered into her body began to run wild inside her as her magical energy went out of control. "Master! Die!" Seeing Rin heavily injured by Monica, Fujino was instantly enraged. She recklessly used her mystic eyes of distortion, intending to twist Monica apart. Monica nonchalantly extended a slender hand, easily blocking the twisting force from Fujino's mystic eyes with just one finger. At that moment, Sakura heard Rin's cry of pain and Fujino's roar. Her feelings for Rin finally suppressed the fear in her heart. She opened her eyes and saw Rin kneeling in a pool of blood, and her heart trembled. "Sister, what's wrong? Sister, don't scare me." Rin looked at Sakura beside her, clutching the wound on her abdomen, and forced a smile. "I'm fine, Sakura. Quickly find a way to escape with Fujino. We can't beat her." "No, I won't leave my sister behind." Sakura, who had long been carefully protected by Rin, had often hoped she could help her sister, but reality had repeatedly made her feel her own powerlessness. Her accumulated emotions finally erupted at this moment. It was as if a switch inside Sakura had been flipped. Her eyes went hollow as she turned to look at Monica. "It must be you. It must be you who hurt my sister. To think you'd make my sister like this. This is all your fault." "Yes, it's all your fault." Rin watched in shock as Sakura's hair gradually turned white, and blood-colored patterns appeared on her skin. "Is this a darkening?" "No, Sakura definitely hasn't come into contact with all the world's evils. This feeling is origin. Has Sakura's origin awakened?" With an indescribable expression on her face, Sakura sat in the pool of blood Rin had shed. Holding Rin, she began to hum a spine-chilling nursery rhyme. As Sakura hummed, a figure resembling a broken Little Red Riding Hood appeared. Then, Little Red Riding Hood pulled a chainsaw covered in tentacles from under her skirt, and charged toward Monica with a ghostly wail. Fujino also noticed Sakura's mutation. Seeing Sakura's familiar entangle Monica, she quickly stopped her mystic eyes of distortion. She glanced at the now terrifying Sakura, took a deep breath, and then knelt on the ground to begin praying. Monica tilted her head, looking somewhat curiously at the charging Little Red Riding Hood. She then extended her left hand and grabbed the chainsaw swinging at her. With a jolt of magical energy, she shattered the tentacles that were trying to wrap around her from the chainsaw. Oh, has your origin awakened? As expected, Rin-chan, as long as I'm with you, I can see unprecedented sights. Then Monica extended her right hand, which glowed with reinforcement magic, and grabbed Little Red Riding Hood's head. Crack! As Monica applied force, Little Red Riding Hood's skull was crushed. With the death of Little Red Riding Hood, a tear rolled down the corner of Sakura's eye. Her singing became even more high-pitched and strange. Combined with the sound of Fujino's prayer nearby, it produced a bizarre chemical reaction that made one feel as if they were in heaven and hell at the same time. Following Sakura's song, the corpse of Little Red Riding Hood on the ground squirmed. A furry claw extended from the belly of the corpse, and then a bipedal gray wolf crawled out from within Little Red Riding Hood's body. A 3-meter-tall gray wolf with a hideous face, having just crawled out of Little Red Riding Hood's corpse, let out an excited howl, and then swung its massive claws at Monica. At this moment, Fujino also stopped her prayer, and a massive magic circle appeared with her as the center. Rin, currently lying in Sakura's arms, felt a mysterious magical energy healing her wounds. Master, the temple is complete. Once you've recovered, take Sakura and run. Realizing Fujino's plan, Rin anxiously reached out her hand, trying to grab her. Stop, Fujino. If you undergo servantification here, without a holy grail or spiritual pulse to provide mana, your mage circuits will burn out. Suddenly, a massive wolf head was smashed into Fujino, sending her flying just as she was about to undergo servantification. As the big bad wolf died, a silly smile began to surface on Sakura's face. Monica slowly walked to Rin's side, ignoring the dazed Sakura, who stood there smiling foolishly. She snatched Rin from Sakura's arms and kissed Rin on the lips. MMPH. Having her first kiss stolen in a sudden attack, Rin felt an unbearable shame and indignation, biting Monica's lip hard. Monica released Rin, used healing sorcery to heal her, and then vanished from Rin's sight while touching her bitten lip. Rin-chan, I look forward to our next date. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 70, The Child of Inash appears. 1121 words. Sakura, Sakura. Hearing Rin's call, Sakura opened her eyes dizzily. Looking at Rin, who was anxiously calling her name, she murmured weakly. Sister. At this point, recalling what had happened, Sakura quickly sat up, rushed in front of Rin to protect her, and scanned the surroundings anxiously. Sister, where is the enemy? Seeing Sakura nervously scanning the area, Rin quickly comforted her. Sakura, it's okay. We're back in the room now. Hearing Rin's words, Sakura finally came to her senses. Sister, I'm so glad you're okay. Sakura, you're still very weak. Let me help you back to bed to rest. Rin helped Sakura back to bed, and then carefully tucked her in. After lying down, Sakura recalled the scene she had witnessed and asked Rin in confusion. Sister, when I opened my eyes, I saw you were injured and lying there. What happened after that? Did you defeat the enemy? Rin shook her head with lingering fear. Sakura, Monica let us go. But if it weren't for you, we might have all died there. Me? Yes, Sakura, you awakened your origin. However, your origin is too unusual, so I've used the temple spell to seal it for now. Promise me you won't break the seal unless it's absolutely necessary, or you can master this power, okay? Hearing Rin's words, Sakura finally remembered her memories after awakening her origin. Emotion. Sakura's origin was precisely emotion, specifically, malicious and twisted emotions. Through the reinforcement of emotions, Sakura's fairy tale magic seemed to shift toward dark fairy tales. Since fairy tale familiars are manifestations of her negative emotions, if a summoned character is destroyed, the corresponding negative emotion would rebound intensely onto Sakura. Little Red Riding Hood's killing intent brought tears of mercy to Sakura. The big bad wolf's rage left Sakura's joyful mind blank. Because of this, to prevent Sakura's emotions from being twisted while she was still weak, Rin, having understood Sakura's origin, sealed it. However, since it was a rare power, Rin didn't completely block the path, leaving the key to the seal in Sakura's hands, believing she would eventually master it. Seeing Rin's solemn expression, Sakura nodded and agreed. Sister, what about Fujino? Fujino was also injured. She's resting in the next room. Sister, you should go see Fujino too. She'll want you by her side when she wakes up. Alright, get some rest, Sakura. I'll come check on you later. With that, Rin left the room and entered the train carriage's corridor. Finished talking with your sister? Yes. Lorelei, thank you for your help these past 2 days. I didn't expect you'd be willing to help and watch over us. Lorelei leaned against the carriage and turned her head away dismissively. I'm not helping you. I'm just interested in the person who defeated you. Rin shook her head at Lorelei. Lorelei, even a magus wouldn't be a match for that person. Stop being curious about her. Humph. Mind your own business. Go see your disciple. Rin parted with Lorelei and went to the next room. Fujino lay motionless on the bed like a sleeping beauty. Rin went to Fujino's side and carefully adjusted her blanket. After Monica forcibly interrupted her servantification that day, Fujino had been unconscious, as if trapped in a nightmare. Except for her occasional breathing, she was like a sleeping beauty in a fairy tale, sleeping on and on. Rin had tried various methods to check Fujino's condition, but found no abnormalities. Just then, Fujino suddenly opened her eyes. Master. Fujino. You're finally awake. Fujino looked at Rin in confusion. Master, have I been asleep for a long time? Yes, Fujino, you've been asleep for 2 days. I see. Master, I had a dream, a very long dream. There was a strange version of me in it, constantly saying something to me. Oh, and she taught me a way to enhance my mystic eyes, but I can't remember any of it now. Seeing Fujino clutching her temples and trying hard to remember, Rin sat on the edge of the bed and hugged Fujino. It's all right, Fujino. It doesn't matter if you can't remember, as long as you're safe. After settling the newly awakened Sakura and Fujino, Rin went to the dining car alone. After ordering some light food for them, she sat alone, looking at the scenery outside, lost in thought. Rin, how is it? Are Sakura and Fujino awake? Rin turned and saw Waver walking over slowly with Gray, then nodded. Yes, they're awake. Waver and Gray sat across from Rin. That's good. Rin, why do you look so preoccupied? I'm thinking about the person who attacked us. I have a feeling she's about to make another move. Her. Screech. Suddenly, inertia acted on Rin, Waver, and Gray, throwing them off balance. Then, the train's broadcast sounded. Announcement. This train is heading toward the child of Inash. This train is heading toward the child of Inash. Please do not panic, we are handling the situation. Screech. Rin felt another jolt of inertia, pushing her to the right. Regrettably, the train has entered the child of Inash. Please ensure your personal safety until service is restored. Rin felt the train stabilize and looked out the window. The train, which had been traveling through a sunny plain, was now stopped inside a withered forest amid a blizzard. Am I really such a jinx? Rin rolled her eyes in self-doubt. Rin. Rin turned toward the sound and saw an excited Lorelei. Lorelei. Ha ha ha, that old fox Trantrero didn't lie to me. Rin, the target is here. Let's go. With that, Lorelei excitedly pulled Rin toward the exit. Dragged along by Lorelei, Rin turned back helplessly and shouted to Waver. Waver, please look after Sakura and Fujino with Gray. I'm counting on you. Stepping off the train with Lorelei, Rin couldn't help but tighten her clothes and shiver in the blizzard. Oh. Rin, Lorelei, you're here too. Kenneth and Rhaenys were already standing outside, looking toward the front of the train where Magi were trying to clear the path by burning the forest. Lorelei frowned as she watched the Magi casting spells. What are they doing? Committing suicide. Sure enough, the Magi who were smugly burning the trees were soon skewered by several branches and hung from the treetops. Looking at the skewered Magi, Rhaenys couldn't help but comment. Indeed, they are committing suicide. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. Patreon.com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.